2 days before Thanksgiving, my mom texted me. We're keeping it small this year, just immediate family. An hour later, my sister posted a photo of the dinner table, 15 place settings. I said nothing, cooked for myself, and turned off my phone. The next morning, I woke up to 22 missed calls and a voicemail from my aunt. At 1:13, she whispered something that made my hands tremble. The chime of my phone at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon was, initially, just another disruption. My desk, cold glass against my elbow, vibrated with the notification, pulling me from the dense paragraphs of quarterly reports. I glanced down. A text from Mom. Keeping it small this year, sweetheart. Just immediate family. You, me, Dad, Natalie, and Troy. Low-key. Quiet. We need it after everything. After everything. 2 words, yet they held the crushing weight of 9 months. 9 months that had cleaved our family in ways I never fathomed. My grandmother's death in February had not only unearthed long-buried secrets, but also ignited legal skirmishes over her estate, transforming us into strangers bound only by DNA, devoid of connection. A quiet Thanksgiving, a reprieve from the storm, sounded like the first fragile step towards healing. I responded with a simple heart emoji, already mentally curating what to bring. Perhaps Grandma's sweet potato casserole, her recipe handwritten on a yellowed index card, pressed into my palm just 3 weeks before she passed. Or maybe her cranberry relish, the one nobody else could ever quite perfect. An hour later, my phone lit up again, an Instagram notification. Natalie. My sister, 2 years my junior, perpetually the golden child, never missed an opportunity to curate her life into perfectly filtered squares. Usually, I scrolled past her posts without a second thought. That day, I wish I had. The photo displayed our parents' dining room table, the very table that had hosted every significant holiday meal since 1987. But this time, it was extended to its full 12-foot glory, 15 place settings gleaming under the chandelier. The angle of the afternoon light streaming through the windows told me it had been set up hours ago, long before Mom's text about keeping it small. 15. The caption read, "Can't wait for tomorrow. So grateful for family. All of it. #blessed, #Thanksgiving, #family time." I counted the place settings. 1, 2, 3 times. My coffee cooled, forgotten in my hand, as I zoomed in on each meticulously arranged plate, each crisply folded napkin, each wine glass catching the light. There was the china, reserved only for the grandest occasions. There were the crystal glasses Grandma had carried from Poland in 1952. 15 chairs, some clearly borrowed from other rooms, encircled a table that was decidedly neither small nor immediate. Comments were already pouring in. Natalie's friends gushing about her luck. Distant cousins humorously inquiring about leftovers. And then I saw it. A comment from Aunt Janice, my father's sister. Can't wait. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Aunt Janice, whom I hadn't seen in 4 years due to the brutal fallout with my mother over Grandma's jewelry. Aunt Janice, whom my mother had once vowed never to speak to again. Aunt Janice was apparently coming to our small, immediate family Thanksgiving dinner. I placed my phone face down, returning to my reports, though I couldn't recall a single word I read for the next hour. My mind was a relentless loop, 15 place settings, my mother's text, the casual, cutting cruelty of being deliberately excluded while simultaneously being told you weren't. By 7 that evening, my decision solidified. I wouldn't call. I wouldn't text. I wouldn't demand an explanation, or weep, or plead for understanding as to why my own mother had lied directly to my face. I would simply stay home. On my way home from work, I stopped at the grocery store. Turkey breast for one. A small bag of roasted potatoes. Fresh green beans. A single slice of pumpkin pie from the bakery. The checker, an older woman with kind eyes and silvering hair, met my gaze, a soft smile playing on her lips. She said nothing, but something in her expression conveyed an unspoken understanding. Wednesday morning, a barrage of texts from Natalie greeted me. Mom wants to know what time you're coming tomorrow. 20 minutes later. Hello, Ben. You're being weird again. And finally, whatever. More food for everyone else. I powered off my phone completely. Not silent. Not do not disturb. Off. The black screen felt like a protective shield, buffering me from the chaotic hum of the family group chat, a chat I'd been suspiciously quiet in for weeks. Thanksgiving Day dawned cold and gray, the kind of November morning that promises snow but never quite delivers. I dressed in comfortable clothes, leggings, an oversized sweater, thick socks, and began to cook. My apartment slowly filled with familiar scents, butter and herbs, cinnamon and nutmeg, the savory richness of turkey skin crisping in the oven. I set my table for one. A single plate, a single fork and knife, a single wine glass filled with a Pinot Noir I'd been saving for a special occasion. If this wasn't special, this act of choosing myself over people who would discard me without a second thought, then nothing was. At 2:30 p.m., I sat down to eat. The turkey was perfectly golden. The mashed potatoes creamy and rich. The green beans still with a satisfying snap. I raised my wine glass to the empty chair opposite me and whispered, "To new traditions." The meal was delicious. More than that, it was peaceful. No uncle spouting uncomfortable political comments. No cousin drinking too much and growing belligerent. No passive-aggressive remarks about my career, my apartment, my life choices. Just me, good food, and the quiet satisfaction of having refused to participate in my own diminishment. I spent the evening wrapped in a blanket, catching up on movies I'd meant to watch, a cup of tea warming my hands. Around 8, I remembered my phone. Still off. A strange impulse made me turn it back on. The screen exploded with notifications, texts, missed calls, voicemails, all time-stamped throughout the day. 22 missed calls, to be exact. From my mother, my father, Natalie, my cousin Bethany, Aunt Janice, even my father's business partner Martin, whom I had met precisely twice. But it was the voicemail from Aunt Shelley, my mother's younger sister, the one who'd moved to Arizona 5 years ago and only returned for major events, that made my stomach lurch. The timestamp read 1:13 a.m. Thanksgiving night. After everyone had left. After the dishes were done. After whatever had happened, had happened. I pressed play. Static crackled through the speaker. Then, Shell's voice, barely a whisper. "I'm in the guest bathroom. I can't talk long. I need you to know what happened tonight. Your mother told everyone you couldn't come because you were sick. Food poisoning, she said. She even showed everyone texts you supposedly sent her. But I saw your Instagram story, the one you posted at noon with your plate. You weren't sick. You were home alone." A pause. Water running in the background. Shell's voice dropped even lower. "Everything came out at dinner. Natalie got drunk on wine and started bragging about how she'd convinced your mother not to invite you. She said you've been a downer since Grandma died, always bringing up the will and the estate and making everything awkward. She said it was supposed to be a drama-free holiday, which apparently meant a holiday without you. Your mother didn't defend you. She didn't say a single word. She just sat there and let Natalie talk. Your father left the table." Another pause, a door creaking. Shell's voice became urgent. Troy filmed some of it. The whole confession. He was making a TikTok or something stupid and he caught Natalie saying everything. Your mother saw him filming and tried to make him delete it, but Troy already sent it to himself. I watched him do it. He still has it. Get that video. Then you need to check your grandmother's safety deposit box. The one at First National Bank downtown. Your mother doesn't know you have a key. I'm the one who gave it to your grandmother to give to you. There's a letter inside. Read it. Then decide what you want to do." The voicemail ended. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I played it again, then a third time. Each word seared itself into my memory. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my laptop, a cold fury replacing exhaustion, and began digging through every document related to my grandmother's estate. She'd been a meticulous record keeper, and I'd inherited boxes of her papers. Bank statements, property deeds, investment portfolios, insurance policies. Most of it had seemed like routine paperwork at the time, important but not immediately relevant to the family drama swirling around her will. But now, looking at it with fresh eyes, Shell's words echoing in my mind, insidious patterns emerged. Transfers made months before my grandmother's death. Large sums moving from her accounts into ones I didn't recognize. Withdrawals that didn't match any expenses in her ledgers. Checks made out to N. Bradford in amounts that made my breath catch. N. Bradford, Natalie's married name. Natalie, who'd spent the last year of our grandmother's life visiting her 3 times a week, supposedly out of love and duty. Natalie, who'd been so grief-stricken at the funeral that she could barely speak. Natalie, who'd walked away from the estate settlement with a trust fund and a vintage Mercedes in our grandmother's house. Friday morning, I was standing outside First National Bank when the doors opened at 9 o'clock. The safety deposit box area was in the basement, a climate-controlled vault that smelled of old paper and metal. The attendant, a young man named Kevin with a freshly printed name tag, verified my identification and led me to box 847. My grandmother's key slid into the lock as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. Inside the narrow metal drawer were 3 items: a manila envelope, a small black jewelry box, and a USB drive. I opened the envelope first. The letter inside was written in my grandmother's distinctive hand, the same elegant script she'd used to write out her recipes. Asterisk, my dearest girl, asterisk. It began. Asterisk, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And I suspect things have unfolded exactly as I feared they would. Your mother has always been my daughter, and I have loved her with every fiber of my being, but she has also been weak when it comes to Natalie. She sees in your sister everything she wished she'd been at that age: confident, social, unafraid to ask for what she wants. She has enabled Natalie's selfishness for so long that I doubt she even recognizes it anymore. Asterisk. My eyes welled with tears, but I kept reading. Asterisk, 6 months ago, Natalie came to me with a proposal. She wanted money to invest in Troy's business venture. She promised returns. She showed me projections and business plans. She was so convincing, so earnest, that I almost believed her. Almost. But I've lived 8 decades on this earth, and I've seen enough schemes to recognize one when it's dressed up in PowerPoint slides and enthusiasm. I told her no. I told her the money I'd set aside was meant to be divided equally among my grandchildren after my death. I told her she needed to build her own life, not expect to inherit one. She didn't take it well. She stopped visiting for a month. Your mother called me in tears, begging me to reconsider, telling me I was pushing Natalie away. Asterisk, so, I did something I'm not proud of. I lied. I told Natalie I'd changed my mind. I told her I'd make the transfers she wanted. I even showed her bank statements with the withdrawals highlighted. What I didn't tell her was that every penny went into an offshore trust in your name, one she couldn't touch, couldn't contest, couldn't even know about until after my death and after the estate was settled. The account number is on the USB drive, along with videos I recorded every time Natalie visited during those final months. I wanted a record. I wanted proof of what she was really after. Asterisk, I'm leaving you this because you've always been the one who sought truth over comfort. You've always been willing to ask difficult questions and live with uncomfortable answers. The money in that trust is yours, free and clear. No strings attached. It's not a fortune, but it's enough to change your life if you're smart about it. $140,000. More importantly, the videos on that drive are evidence. Evidence of what Natalie really thought of me. Evidence of the lies she told. Evidence of the financial manipulation she attempted. I'll continue adding to these videos until I no longer can. The USB drive stays with my attorney, and he'll add it to this box after my death, ensuring everything is here when you need it. Asterisk, what you do with this information is entirely up to you. You can expose her. You can use it as leverage. You can simply take your money and walk away from all of them, building a life that doesn't include people who would treat you as less than you are. I won't judge any choice you make. I only ask that you remember this. You deserve better than what they gave you. You always have. Asterisk. The letter was signed simply, Grandma Rose, with a lipstick kiss pressed below her name, the same dusty pink shade she'd worn every day of my childhood. I opened the jewelry box next. Inside was her engagement ring, the platinum band with 3 diamonds my grandfather had saved for a year to buy in 1965. A note card lay underneath. Asterisk for when you find someone who sees all of you and loves all of you. Not before. Asterisk. The USB drive felt heavy in my hand, though it weighed less than an ounce. I drove home in a daze, stopping only to pick up a new laptop charger because mine had mysteriously stopped working the night before. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of timing. Back in my apartment, I plugged the drive into my laptop. 47 video files, each labeled with a date and timestamp. I started with the earliest one, dated 10 months ago, 2 months before my grandmother's death. The video showed Grandma's living room, the camera positioned on a bookshelf pointing toward her favorite armchair. Natalie sat across from her on the sofa, leaning forward, hands clasped. The audio was crystal clear. Asterisk Grandma, I need you to understand how important this is, asterisk. Natalie was saying. Asterisk Troy's been working on this for 3 years. We've got investors ready to come in once we can show we have the initial capital. Your investment would give us credibility. It would change everything, asterisk. My grandmother's voice, already thin with illness but still sharp. Asterisk, and what happens if it fails? What happens to my investment then, asterisk? Asterisk, it won't fail, asterisk. Natalie's tone had an edge to it. Asterisk, we've done all the research. We've run all the numbers. This is a sure thing, asterisk. Asterisk, there's no such thing as a sure thing, sweetheart. Asterisk. Asterisk, there is if you believe in the people you're investing in, asterisk. Natalie retorted, a pause hanging in the air. Asterisk, don't you believe in me, asterisk. That sentence landed like a slap. The emotional manipulation was so naked, so obvious, that I felt embarrassed for my sister. My grandmother must have felt the same way because she simply said, asterisk, I think you should go home and think about what you're really asking me for, asterisk. Natalie left without saying goodbye. I watched video after video. Each one showed a different conversation, a different angle of approach, but the same underlying message. Natalie wanted money, and she believed she was entitled to it. In some videos, she was sweet and cajoling. In others, frustrated and sharp. In one, filmed just 3 weeks before Grandma's death, she was openly angry. Asterisk, you're being selfish, asterisk. Natalie hissed at the frail woman in the hospital bed. Asterisk, you're sitting on all this money, and for what? You can't take it with you. You're going to die. And then what? It gets split up and taxed and divided, and nobody gets enough to actually do anything meaningful with it. But if you give it to me now, I can multiply it. I can turn it into something real. Asterisk. My grandmother's response was quiet but firm. Asterisk, what you're describing isn't love, Natalie. It's greed, and I will not enable it. Asterisk. Natalie had stormed out. The video showed my grandmother lying back against her pillows, eyes closed, a single tear tracking down her cheek. She knew. She knew exactly who Natalie was, and it broke her heart. The final video was dated 1 week before her death. My grandmother was alone this time, speaking directly to the camera. Asterisk, I hope whoever's watching this never has to use it. I hope Natalie grows up and realizes that money isn't love, and manipulation isn't family. But if she doesn't, if this becomes necessary, then know that I tried. I tried to teach her better. I tried to show her a different way. Some people aren't capable of learning those lessons. That's not your fault. It's not even entirely hers. It's just the sad truth of who she became. Asterisk. I closed my laptop and sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across my living room floor. My phone buzzed with another text from my mother. We need to talk. Call me. I didn't call. Instead, I made myself dinner, leftover turkey reheated with fresh herbs, and tried to process what I had just witnessed. The videos had revealed a version of Natalie I'd suspected existed, but never wanted to confirm. Growing up, she'd always been the charming one, the one who could talk her way out of trouble or into opportunities. Our parents had called it charisma. I called it manipulation, but only in the privacy of my own thoughts. There was the time in high school when she convinced our mother that I had borrowed her favorite sweater without asking, when in reality, she'd spilled wine on it at a party and needed someone to blame. I was grounded for 2 weeks. The truth came out months later, almost by accident, when one of her friends mentioned the party. Natalie had laughed it off. Our mother had said, "Well, it was a long time ago. Let's just move past it." That phrase, "let's just move past it," had become the family motto. Whenever Natalie's behavior caused problems, when she maxed out a credit card our father had given her for emergencies and used it for a shopping spree in New York, when she forgotten to pay me back the $3,000 I'd lent her for her wedding deposits, when she told our extended family that I'd chosen not to attend her baby shower because I was jealous, when she'd actually never sent me an invitation. Each incident by itself seemed petty to bring up. Collectively, they painted a portrait of someone who had learned early that consequences were optional if you were sufficiently charming about your transgressions. Watching those videos, I realized my grandmother had seen the same pattern. She'd just been braver about naming it. Saturday morning arrived with a barrage of texts from my mother. They started gentle. "Sweetheart, I think there's been a misunderstanding." Then progressed to concerned. "Your father and I are worried about you. This isn't like you to shut us out." By noon, they'd taken on an edge. "Natalie is very upset. She says you've been acting strange. We need to discuss this as a family." As a family, the phrase made me laugh, a bitter sound in my quiet apartment. We discussed it as a family. Which meant Natalie would cry, our mother would defend her, our father would suggest we all calm down, and I would be expected to apologize for causing drama. The script was so familiar, I could have recited it from memory. I spent Saturday afternoon going through my grandmother's other papers with fresh eyes. These were letters I'd skimmed before, thinking they were just routine correspondence. Reading them now, I saw references I'd missed. Asterisk, "I worry about N's influence on your mother." Asterisk. She'd written to my father's brother, Uncle Philip, 2 years ago. Asterisk, "She's always been susceptible to flattery, and N knows exactly which buttons to push." Asterisk. Another letter, this one to Aunt Shell. Asterisk, "I've decided to make some changes to my estate planning. I want to ensure that certain people are protected, even if that protection comes after I'm gone. You'll understand why when the time comes. Trust me, sister. Trust that I'm doing what's necessary." Asterisk. My grandmother had been planning this for years. The private trust, the videos, the careful documentation, none of it was impulsive. She'd watched Natalie's behavior escalate and had made calculated decisions to protect me from the fallout. The weight of that realization made my chest tight. She'd known she was dying and had spent her remaining energy making sure I wouldn't be left defenseless. Sunday morning, I drove to the cemetery outside Philadelphia where my grandmother was buried. Her grave was in the northeast corner, under an oak tree that scattered acorns across the headstone in autumn. Someone had left fresh flowers, white roses, her favorite. I wondered if it was Aunt Shell. I sat on the cold ground and talked to her the way I used to when she was alive. Told her about the videos, about the trust fund, about the Thanksgiving I'd spent alone rather than subject myself to more lies. "You were right," I said to the granite marker. "About all of it. I just wish you'd been wrong." The wind picked up, sending leaves skittering across the grass. In the distance, another family was gathering around a different grave, their heads bowed in collective grief. I envied them that togetherness, even in sadness. My own family's grief had splintered us into factions, those who believed Natalie's version of events and those who'd started asking uncomfortable questions. By Sunday evening, I'd made my decision about the attorneys. I needed professional guidance, not just for potential legal action, but to understand exactly what my options were. The trust fund alone raised questions about tax implications and proper management. The videos were evidence of something, but I needed an expert to tell me evidence of what, exactly, and whether pursuing any claims was worth the inevitable explosion it would cause. The following week, I consulted with 3 different attorneys. The first 2 were sympathetic but cautious, warning me about the potential fallout of exposing family secrets. The third, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Hernandez, who built her reputation on high-stakes estate litigation, looked at the documents and videos with growing interest. "This is substantial," she said, tapping her pen against the conference table. "Your grandmother was remarkably thorough. These videos alone would be enough to challenge any claims Natalie might make on the estate. Combined with the financial records and her own letter, you have an airtight case." "A case for what?" I asked. "The estate's already been settled." Patricia smiled. "The estate?" "Yes. But there's the matter of fraud. If Natalie misrepresented her relationship with your grandmother to gain access to funds or property, that's actionable. Your grandmother's estate included her house and several other assets that Natalie received. If those assets were distributed based on false pretenses, based on Natalie claiming she had a close, caring relationship when these videos prove she was attempting financial exploitation, then there are grounds to challenge how those specific items were distributed. We're not talking about reopening the entire estate. We're talking about specific assets obtained through deception." She leaned back in her chair. "The question isn't whether you have a case. The question is what you want to do with it." What did I want? Revenge felt too simple, too crude. Justice felt closer, but still not quite right. Mostly, I wanted the truth to matter. I wanted the lies to have consequences. I wanted my grandmother's final wishes to be honored, not trampled over by the golden child who'd spent her last months treating her like a personal ATM. "I want to proceed," I said. "But not yet. I have something I need to do first." Monday morning, I returned to work with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. My colleagues noticed immediately. Jennifer, who sat in the cubicle next to mine, commented on it during our coffee break. "You seem different," she said. "Good different. Like you finally got a full night's sleep or something." "Something like that," I replied, stirring cream into my coffee. I didn't elaborate. How could I explain that discovering your family's betrayal documented in high-definition video had somehow been liberating? That knowing the worst had already happened meant there was nothing left to fear? Work had always been my refuge from family drama. I was good at my job, financial analysis for a mid-sized consulting firm, and my competence there felt like proof that I wasn't the problem child Natalie made me out to be. Numbers didn't lie. Spreadsheets didn't gaslight you. Quarterly reports didn't rewrite history to make themselves look better. That week, I threw myself into a project I'd been putting off, a comprehensive analysis of investment portfolios for a client who was restructuring their estate planning. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was helping a stranger protect their assets while simultaneously uncovering how my own grandmother had protected mine. The parallels made me better at the work. I understood, viscerally now, why someone would go to such lengths to ensure their wishes were honored after death. Jennifer caught me working late on Wednesday evening. Most of the office had cleared out by 6 o'clock, but I was still at my desk, cross-referencing documents and building financial models. She knocked on my cubicle wall, making me jump. "Sorry," she said, holding up her hands. "Didn't mean to startle you. Just wanted to make sure you were okay. You've been here until 8 or 9 every night this week." I saved my work and closed my laptop. Just focused. Got a lot on my mind. She leaned against the cubicle divider, her expression sympathetic. "Family stuff?" I must have looked surprised because she laughed. "You're not as mysterious as you think. I heard you on the phone with your mom last week. Well, heard your side of it anyway. Sounded tense." "It's complicated," I said. The default phrase for family dysfunction that couldn't be easily explained. "They always are." Jennifer pulled up the chair from the empty cubicle across from mine and sat down. "Look, I don't want to overstep, but my family went through something similar a few years ago. Estate drama, siblings fighting, lies coming out. It was ugly. Really ugly. And the thing I learned was that sometimes the healthiest choice is to step back and let them sort out their own mess without you in the middle of it. What if stepping back means they win? The question came out before I could stop it, revealing more than I'd intended. Jennifer considered this. Win what, though? If the prize is a family that functions on lies and manipulation, is that really winning? Or is it just continuing to lose in a familiar way? Her words stayed with me long after she'd left for the night. I sat in my quiet cubicle, the office dark except for the emergency lighting and the glow of the city through the windows, and thought about what winning actually meant. Was it exposing Natalie? Was it getting my mother to admit she'd chosen wrong? Was it receiving an apology that actually acknowledged the hurt instead of just trying to smooth things over? Or was it simply refusing to participate in a system that required me to diminish myself for everyone else's comfort? Troy's phone had indeed captured the video, and Aunt Shell was right. He'd saved it to his camera roll immediately. Getting a copy required nothing more than a text message explaining that I wanted to see what I'd missed at Thanksgiving. He sent it within 10 minutes, probably not realizing what he was handing over. The video was everything Shell had described in words. It was only 3 minutes long, but those 3 minutes contained everything I needed. Natalie, wine-flushed and grinning, telling the entire table how she'd saved Thanksgiving by convincing Mom to exclude me. "She's been such a killjoy since Grandma died," she said, her words slightly slurred. "Always bringing up the will, always asking questions about the money, like, sorry you didn't get as much as you thought you deserved. But maybe if you'd actually spent time with her instead of just showing up for the reading of the will, you would have been in a better position." The lie was breathtaking. I had visited our grandmother twice a week for the entire last year of her life. I'd taken her to appointments, filled her prescriptions, sat with her during chemotherapy sessions while Natalie was mysteriously always busy. The audacity of rewriting history so completely, so confidently, in front of 15 people who apparently believed every word. It was almost impressive in its shamelessness. The video showed my mother's face in the background. She looked uncomfortable but said nothing. My father eventually stood up and left the table, but not before the damage was done. Aunt Janice was nodding along. Cousin Bethany was laughing. They all believed Natalie's version of events because she told it with such conviction. I saved the video to 3 different places: my laptop, a cloud drive, and a USB stick I locked in my own safety deposit box. Then I started planning. Planning felt productive in a way that stewing in anger never had. I created spreadsheets. Of course I did. I was my grandmother's granddaughter, tracking every family gathering for the past 5 years. Who had been invited, who had attended, who had been mysteriously excluded or told about events at the last minute. The pattern was damning. Nearly every gathering in the past 3 years had included some version of me being sidelined, forgotten, or deliberately misled about the details. The Christmas party 2 years ago, where everyone exchanged gifts, except no one had told me it was a gift exchange. I'd shown up empty-handed, feeling like an idiot. While Natalie made a show of saying, "It's okay. We know you're busy with work." The implication being that I cared more about my career than my family. The 4th of July barbecue, where the time had been changed from 3 p.m. to noon, and I'd been the only one not informed of the switch. I'd arrived to find everyone already eating, the best food gone, and Natalie explaining to her friends that I never could get the details right. My father's birthday dinner, where I'd been told it was casual and arrived in jeans to find everyone else in cocktail attire. Natalie in a designer dress, holding court about how she always made an effort for family events. Individually, these could have been mistakes. Collectively, they were a campaign, a systematic effort to make me feel like an outsider in my own family, orchestrated by my sister and enabled by my mother's refusal to acknowledge what was happening. I showed the spreadsheet to Patricia Hernandez during our second meeting. She studied it for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she looked up at me. "This is a pattern of exclusion," she said. "Deliberate, repeated, documented. Combined with everything else, the videos, the financial manipulation, the lies about Thanksgiving, you're building a narrative that goes beyond just estate disputes. This is about systematic emotional abuse within a family structure. The phrase emotional abuse landed like a punch. I'd never used those words before. Never let myself frame it that way. Families had conflicts. Siblings had rivalries. That was normal. But what Patricia was describing wasn't normal. It was pathological. I need to think about this, I said. Patricia nodded. Take your time. But understand that the longer you wait, the more they'll have time to craft their own narrative. Your sister is already telling people you're unstable, that you're making things up, that you've always been jealous of her. I've seen it before. The person who speaks up about dysfunction gets labeled as the problem. And by the time the truth comes out, everyone's already chosen sides. I left her office feeling simultaneously validated and exhausted. The weight of knowing, really knowing, what had been done to me was heavier than the uncertainty had been. At least with uncertainty, I could still hope I was wrong. Now I had evidence. Now I had proof. Now I had to decide what to do with it. December crept closer. My mother's texts became more frequent, more insistent. She wanted to clear the air before the holidays. She wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. What she really wanted was for me to agree to show up and act like nothing had happened so that everyone else could feel comfortable again. I didn't respond to most of her messages. When I did, my replies were brief and non-committal. I'll let you know. Still thinking about it. We'll see. Each vague response bought me more time to prepare. Aunt Shell called me one evening in early December. Your mother is panicking, she said without preamble. She knows something's wrong, but she doesn't know what. Natalie told her you've been acting paranoid and suggested maybe you need therapy. I laughed, though there was no humor in it. Of course she did. She's scared, Shelley continued. Natalie, I mean. She knows you have those videos. She doesn't know what else you might have, but she knows it's enough to damage her. Troy let it slip to his brother that they might need to talk to a lawyer. His brother told me. The family grapevine is working overtime. Good, I said. Let them worry. Let them wonder what I'm going to do. They've spent years making me feel uncertain and off balance. They can have a taste of it. Shell was quiet for a moment. You sound different. Harder. No, I corrected. I sound done. There's a difference. She sighed. I support you. Whatever you decide to do, I support you. But I want you to be prepared for the fallout. Your mother is going to choose Natalie. She always has. Your father might surprise you, but he might not. Some of the cousins will take sides. Others will try to stay neutral and end up making everyone angry. It's going to get messy. It's already messy, I said. At least now it'll be an honest mess instead of the polite fiction we've been maintaining. The family always gathered at my parents' house the second Sunday in December to decorate for Christmas. It was a tradition that went back generations, complete with homemade cookies, hot chocolate, and enough holiday music to make even the Grinch warble. Everyone would be there. Everyone. I RSVP'd with a simple, I'll be there, and nothing more. My mother called twice to make sure, to clear up any misunderstandings about Thanksgiving. I let both calls go to voicemail. December 8th, dawn, clear and cold. I arrived at my parents' house at 2 in the afternoon, a box of decorations in my arms and my laptop bag slung over my shoulder. Natalie was already there, perched on the sofa with a glass of wine, holding court about the vacation they were planning to the Maldives. There she is! My mother exclaimed with forced cheer. We missed you on Thanksgiving. How are you feeling? All better. The concern was performative, meant for the audience of cousins and aunts and uncles scattered around the room. I smiled. I felt fine on Thanksgiving, actually. Cooked a lovely meal for myself. Very peaceful. The room went quiet. Natalie's expression flickered. Confusion, then calculation. My mother's smile froze in place. But you texted me that you had food poisoning, my mother said carefully. No, I replied, setting down the decorations. I didn't text you at all. You told me dinner was immediate family only. Then Natalie posted a photo of 15 place settings, so I stayed home. Natalie stood up. You're being dramatic. Mom said you were sick. Don't try to make this into something it's not. I pulled out my phone, opened Instagram, and pulled up Natalie's post. 15 place settings. That's not immediate family. That's a deliberate exclusion disguised as intimacy. You lied to me, Mom. And you knew. My father, who'd been silent in the corner, finally spoke. What's done is done. Let's move forward. I would love to move forward, I said. But first, I think everyone should know the truth about Grandma Rose's final months. I connected my laptop to their TV, the same TV we'd watched 1,000 movies on growing up, and pulled up the first video. For the next 45 minutes, that living room was silent except for my grandmother's voice and Natalie's increasingly desperate attempts to extract money from a dying woman. People cried. Aunt Janice left halfway through. Cousin Bethany stared at the screen like she was watching a horror movie. And Natalie sat frozen on that sofa, her wine glass dangling from her fingers, watching her own manipulation play out in high definition. When the last video finished, the one where our grandmother spoke directly to the camera about greed and love and broken hearts, I turned off the TV and faced the room. Grandma Rose left me a trust fund, I said. Money that Natalie thought she'd successfully stolen. Money that our grandmother deliberately moved to protect it from exactly the kind of person Natalie became. She also left me these videos, and a letter, and instructions to do with them what I thought was right. Troy tried to speak. I held up my hand. I've consulted with attorneys. What Natalie did, the lies, the manipulation, the attempted financial exploitation of a dying woman, that's actionable. I can file charges. I can challenge the estate settlement. I can make all of this very public and very legal. My mother found her voice. You wouldn't. She's your sister. She excluded me from Thanksgiving and then lied about why. She spent months trying to steal from Grandma. She has shown me repeatedly that her being my sister means nothing when it's inconvenient for her. I looked at Natalie directly. So no, Mom. I'm not protecting her anymore. Natalie's face had gone pale. What do you want? I want the truth to matter. I want Grandma's wishes honored, and I want all of you to understand exactly who you chose to believe over me. I picked up my coat. I'm not filing charges. I'm not challenging the settlement. But I am done. Done with the lies. Done with the manipulation. Done with being treated like I'm the problem for noticing that I'm being mistreated. You can have your perfect family dinners without me. You've clearly been practicing. I walked out before anyone could respond. My phone started ringing before I even reached my car. My mother, my father, Aunt Shell, Bethany. I silenced it and drove home. 3 days later, an envelope arrived at my apartment. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a note in my mother's handwriting. This is from the proceeds of Grandma's house sale. Natalie received the house and sold it for $320,000. This is your share of what you should have gotten. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The math made sense now. The house should have been split or at least considered in the overall distribution. Instead, Natalie had gotten it outright, then sold it and kept the money. My mother was trying to make it right, or at least trying to ease her own guilt. Too little, too late, but I deposited the check anyway. Natalie and Troy's business venture collapsed 6 months later. Something about mismanaged funds and broken investor promises. They had to sell their house and move into a rental. The Maldives trip never happened. My mother calls once a week now. We have coffee sometimes, strained conversations where she tries to apologize and I try to figure out if forgiveness is possible, or even desirable. My father and I are working on it slowly, with the help of a family therapist who makes us both uncomfortable in productive ways. Natalie sent me an email 8 months after that Christmas decoration afternoon. It was long, rambling, full of justifications and explanations, and a half-hearted apology buried in the 7th paragraph. I never responded. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Aunt Shell and I have dinner once a month now. She told me that my grandmother had confided in her about the trust fund years before she died, making Shell promise to make sure I knew where to look if things went wrong. She knew, Shell said over pasta one evening. She knew exactly how it would all play out. She just hoped she was wrong. I wear my grandmother's engagement ring on my right hand. Not because I'm waiting for someone to propose, but because I want to remember every day that I deserve better than what I was given. That truth matters. That standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Last Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner at my apartment. Aunt Shell came, my father came, a few cousins who'd reached out after that December afternoon came. We set up a table for 8, cooked too much food, and told stories about my grandmother that made us laugh until we cried. My mother asked if she could come. I told her maybe next year. She understood. Natalie didn't ask. I don't know if she ever will, but on Thanksgiving morning, a card arrived at my door with no return address. Inside, in Natalie's handwriting, I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this. I put the card in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll know what to do with it. Maybe someday I'll feel ready to have that conversation. But for now, I'm content with my small circle of people who chose me, who showed up, who understood that family is supposed to mean something more than obligation and manipulation. The trust fund from my grandmother, combined with my mother's check and my own savings, allowed me to put a down payment on a small house just outside the city with a backyard perfect for summer dinners. It took me 6 months to find the right place, another 2 months to close, and I've spent this past spring settling in. I'm building a life that doesn't include people who would lie to my face and expect me to smile through it. And every time someone asks about my family, I tell them the truth. It's complicated, but I'm working on surrounding myself with people who think I'm worth being honest with. That's all any of us can really ask for. The voicemail from Aunt Shell is still saved on my phone. Sometimes when I doubt myself or wonder if I overreacted, I listen to it again. That whispered message delivered at 1:13 in the morning from a bathroom in my parents' house was the moment everything changed. The moment I realized that the truth I'd been suspecting for months was real, was documented, was undeniable. My hands shook when I first heard it. They don't shake anymore when I think about what happened. That's how I know I made the right choice. The truth set me free. Even though the freedom came at a price, some prices are worth paying. This one was.